To the curious, the seekers, and the experts, welcome. You're listening to Poli-Psych Podcast. Ken, who is one of our podcast team members, is very interested in a concept called Change the Change. And we are going to take a brief look at that today. So, Ken, hello.
Hi, Cindy.
And hello, Don.
Hello, Cindy and Ken.
So, Ken, can you give us just a brief introduction to this concept?
Sure. Basically, we've been working on this monetary system. We've all been born into it at this point, and the U.S. penny came into existence, at least the conventional penny that we recognize, right around the time of the Civil War. And it's persisted in the same copper and zinc, and then it was changed to zinc with a little bit of copper in 1982. But in any event, we're used to seeing this in our monetary system: two ciphers to the right of the decimal. And the basic root of this concept is to go to one cipher to the right of the decimal. And the effect that would have, we'll see a graphic that I laid out some change and took a camera shot and put some detailed around this. And what it does for us is it helps eliminate the penny, which actually costs, even in the zinc configuration, costs more than the monetary value to produce, not to mention distribute. The nickel is facing the same fate. Nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel, and it currently is the seigniorage on that is a little bit below a nickel, so it's approaching the point where it would cost more to produce it. And then the quarter is the one that really I think brings us home. Of course, it has an effect on vending machines, and we'll go around the room and cover the downsides of this, but this will have to happen at some point. And it's just getting out of hand. Everybody's got the coin jars with the pennies building up, and change is really kind of a nuisance. I think if they bit the bullet and dealt with the vending machine situation, they could do this. But it would definitely simplify life. It would simplify the computation. But again, it's like Y2K. It's fundamental change in the system. But if we ever did have the return of inflation, and currently inflation has been quiescent, this old monetary system would have to go, and probably have to go at the worst possible time. But let's get a little feedback on this idea.
Yeah, those ideas are interesting, Ken. Here's how I think about money. To me, the coins are what, at the street level, keeps money reasonably honest. And the very fact, of course, that in the mid-'60s, the layer of copper was put between silver on the quarter and was it also on the dime? But anyway, at least on the quarter, that basically was a giveaway that our money was not worth what it should be. So the problem that we have now is that our coins are not keeping us honest. So Ken's providing one solution there, and where we basically admit, no, this is not working anymore, and we go to something else, basically eliminating the digit and just saying, okay, we're going to admit that we've lost 10%, or basically one whole factor of 10 value, one decimal point worth from our money. I happen to believe that there is another solution on the horizon that will be preferable to this, and that there will be some kind of a currency reset that the United States as well as other nations are going to participate in, and that we will be moving back to something like a gold standard, if not at least completely, partially, and that will be something that will restore the value of the currency. If that happens, I expect this to be a moot point, because what would happen at that point is you'd have your dollar would be worth a whole lot more. Say, for instance, your bread that you're used to buying at the store, or a gallon of milk or whatever for a few bucks is going to be worth back to a buck or less than a buck, the way that it was in the 1970s or so. If that happens, our coins will actually have the value that indicates we are functioning on honest money, and the copper in the penny will actually be worth at least what a penny is worth, and maybe even our quarters will be back to being silver coins, or 95% silver, or whatever it was. So that's my hope for the future. I do recognize that the problem with the coins indicates we've got a problem with the money, and we do need to have a solution, but we'll see what it is. I think there is something going on behind the scenes. In fact, I would go so far as to say that President Trump and his financial expertise as a businessman was something that monetary people have tapped on to help America navigate this change. I think it's kind of unlikely that this will happen, whatever change we have in the public view anyway, prior to the 2020 election, because it is so big. But Americans basically know we've got a problem with our money. The dollar has devalued significantly, and central banking is a big, big part of the problem. And if the United States did get rid of the Fed as an external and truly private, not government, but quasi-government corporation, and basically nationalize the Fed, then we would be out of the money-making business, and it would be there would be no interest involved in the creation of the money, which would tend to stabilize the currency. I think that's what we need. That's my personal view, and my research in this kind of thing goes back to, and I'll give people an idea where I'm coming from. Bill Still and the Money Masters 2-part video produced in the late 90s is kind of foundational for me, although I read some things before then. But there's a lot of things that have been going on with central banking that I believe are about to be exposed, and I hope that we do, as a nation, get back to honest money pretty soon. So that's my take.
Penny I'm on a website called coinflation.com, and the old, what we call the old penny from 1909 through 1982 is currently worth about 1.7 cents. So the intrinsic value is higher than the monetary value. And then I was a little bit high on the other two. The cent currently, as minted, is at about 63% of its monetary value, in intrinsic value, that is. And then the nickel is approaching, it's at 81%. The metal value is 81% of its monetary value. And I don't know. I mean, it's an idea that probably is impractical, yet I would hate to see a system go through that many shocks at once. In fact, it might be, one could argue that it would be better to do a global change now before that reset, just to get people used to, developing the mental facility that of having a change, that basic effect.
So having a cosmetic or psychological change before a foundational
exactly.
change.
Because it is a foundational change, but it's a rather superficial change. I think it really is. It's because technically we already go 3, 4, 5 ciphers to the right of the decimal in computation, and in accounting, you're going to round up or round down that third cipher anyway. In unit cost, I see unit cost being in the printing business extended to 5 ciphers to the right of the decimal in certain cases where you have to convert it back over. But I don't know. What do you think, Cindy? Are you a penny for your thoughts?
Well, if you haven't got a penny, a halfpenny will do. I know we've never actually had half pennies here, but in England they did. And it would definitely be a change to to have this switch. It seems to me like, from what I've read, that the banks want to move to a cashless system anyway. So certainly I can see how this would streamline the whole system. And as far as the issue with the machines being tooled for quarters, I would imagine that quarters could be pulled from circulation and replaced with 50-cent pieces that are the size of the quarter currently. So there definitely would be workarounds if we were to go to this kind of a system. I'm not emotionally attached to change. In fact, a lot of the time, change tends to be kind of a little bit of a nuisance, just because it's there. There's almost a feeling that it's not real money because there's not a whole lot of value, so it tends to accumulate in jars and shoe boxes and other miscellaneous places. But
washing machine.
It has been known to happen. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not sure how the tooth fairy would fare if we didn't have change. I don't know.
Well, I've got another.
Well, we'd
thought.
still have it, but just not as much of it.
My other thought is that one of the things that's the skills that's lacking in the marketplace these days is the ability to count back change. And because calculators have taken over the role of the old till, where the person at the teller at the cash register would count back the change. If we did change with only two coins, that might make the job simpler, and it might actually be something that people could do without having to punch numbers into their calculator phone.
Well, in conclusion, at least on this issue, I think the thinking about a monetary system, you would have to go to the lowest common denominator, because even let's say we did go to electronic currency, what would hobos do? I mean, that's kind of a crude example, but I mean, you do eventually in a monetary system have to look at the lowest common denominator for everyone. What could everyone use? And let's say we had something that affected the power supply temporarily, we would have with that a corresponding crisis. So I think we'll always have a physical monetary system. It may be marginalized or become somewhat obsolete as it is now. I think it is kind of, we've switched to a different idea with either debit or credit cards, sometimes to the detriment of our financial health for certain people that, aren't watching that credit card end of it. But in any event, I think that's it's just something to think about, and we'll watch and see how it shakes out. It'll have a lot to do with the rate of inflation, but that's my last thought on it is inflation has been quiescent, and if we were to attempt something like this after the prices of metals inflate, and they have done that in the past, that's how we got forced off the silver standard in the 60s. And then look what happened after that. Inflation even snowballed even higher with commodities inflation.
So, dear curious seekers and experts, we thank you for joining us for this look that we've taken at the concept of change the change. We hope that you have enjoyed this time as we have. If you have, we would ask that you please click like for this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our BitChute channel. Check out our website and follow us on Twitter. Once again, thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care.